Hey, comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. And fans, yes, you're with me, Mike Spider Slayer. What's up, everybody? Today we're getting ready to do another countdown. That's right. In fact, we are on countdown episode number 47. Now, I never really had a chance to do any individual reviews, so this is the first time that you'll be hearing any reviews from this week's comics. I think the only one I did was actually Wolverine issue 1, and that was on Comic Frontline. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with this week's countdown. 15 comics altogether, no digital comics this week, guys. And here we go. So, number 15 is. That's right, All New Invaders, issue number 2. Now you're going to wonder, well, Mike, why didn't you like Invaders? What's wrong with it? Well, first off, in this issue, I realized that this is almost just like Earth 2 when, James Robinson was writing that. I can see that this story is going to go on forever. And by the time I got maybe three-quarters way through, I'm kind of like, all right, what's going to happen here? Because right from the get-go, from the last issue, we had our heroes fighting this warrior that's like Ronin, and it's a Kree warrior, and they're after these specific pieces, and they're fighting for these pieces. And you obviously don't want the Kree to go against it, and this happens throughout the entire issue. And you get to see in this issue, you get to see Winter Soldier, you get to see Captain America and whatnot. And the art is pretty good, and you get to see great action sequences. I thought the paneling is good. Again, just like Earth 2, before Tom Taylor took it over, this is okay, but I can obviously see where this is going now, where this storyline is going to drag on and on and on and on, and it's going to get boring. I can feel it. It just has that feeling to it, and that's why I didn't like this. It's an okay issue, but not my acquired taste, and I just think for $3.99, I don't think it's worth it. So I'm probably going to drop it. And I give this one a, no comics were horrible this week, but I'm going to give this one 2.5 out of 5 stars. So moving forward, we're going to go on to number 14. And number 14 was issue number 28 of Swamp Thing. Now, I do like Swamp Thing. I am a huge fan of the series. I read, the first couple trade paperbacks, and I've read everything after the Rot and everything else. And I think it's an okay series. But after reading this issue, the direction that I see it going, I don't know if I'm going to like it going forward. Now, this issue had to do with the origin tale of what's her name, Capuchine, if that's how I said her name right. And I found that her origin wasn't really interesting to me. I didn't find it infatuating. It didn't intrigue me. I found myself kind of bored with the whole thing. And in the issue, it really had to do with the former Parliament of the Trees. There's no more Parliament. And it's just Alec Holland. He's the true Avatar. He's the one that controls the green alone and nobody else. And there's no more Avatars, which is interesting. We get the female character in here, which is Lady Weeds, which was the crazy Avatar from the past. And Alec Holland decided to save her, from everything, or from her being non-existent anymore at the last moment. So in the beginning of this issue, it's kind of interesting to see, well, how is Alec Holland going to take care of these people? What's he going to do with them? How is he going to introduce them to the world? And he takes them out to like New Orleans, to Mardi Gras, and things of that nature. But then right when you get into the whole history of Capuchine, I was kind of like, all right, well, I really don't care about you. I know that, after 1,000 years or so, she's going to die, and and Alec Holland wants to make it peaceful for her, and and then at the end, you get this other crazy thing. You get this like cult here that shows up at his house. So I didn't know what that was all about. So um, I just find this book going in a weird direction now, and I don't know what to think about it. So I'm giving this one a 3 out of 5. So moving on, we go on to number 13, and number 13 was Wolverine issue number 1. And now Wolverine book, right? I mean, you kind of can't help but pick up the new Wolverine book. It's an issue 1. You got to kind of be excited about it because it's his own solo series. And you got Ryan Stegman doing the artwork, so you got a cool artist on here. And so, like, you're all pumped up for it, right? Yeah, not really. This wasn't kind of a lackluster type of issue. Um, Wolverine has this virus. He doesn't have his healing factors on anymore. So now he's set up to do with all this. He has this armor that's kind of just like his, kind of like the costume that he's wearing before. Same colors, same uniform. It's just he's buffed out with armor and fighting ability, and that's about it. But in this issue, you're introduced to some new characters, which you don't know who they are. You don't know where they came from. You're just thrown into this story. And there's this other guy that calls himself, was it Offer or whatever his name was? Yeah, and I just thought it was just kind of generic and real lackluster and really a disappointment for a number 1 issue of Wolverine. What this set up for a 3-star book was, kind of like the artwork here. The artwork was really good. You get to see a little bit of moments between Storm and Wolverine and kind of what he's going through at the moment. And and then you get to see another cool moment where he's teaming up with Black Widow when she's actually training him to use the gun and how to do to use a pistol or whatnot. And he's like, well, I'm not, he's like, I'm not unfamiliar with guns. I used one in World War II, so he's trying to, do whatever. But overall, this issue was okay. And of course, at the end of the issue, you see Wolverine use his gun. Like it's, oh my God, Wolverine used his gun. Look, he's holding it. Oh, we go. Oh no, Wolverine can't do that, right? So I don't know. I'm gonna go for issue number 2 because it has Superior Spider-Man on it. But again, this is a 3 out of 5 book in my opinion. And that's kind of being generous there. If Stegman didn't do the art in this issue, I thought that this would have been probably the worst book of the week. So moving on, we go on to number 12. And number 12 is Black Widow. Now, Black Widow's slowly falling down lower and lower on the list. Now, I like the title. However, there's no real story that is going into Black Widow. So far, this is the 3rd issue that we've gotten. We've gotten really quickly, so I've already spent $12 on Black Widow within a month. And I still don't have a real story here. It's a bunch of one-shots. By the time you get to the end of this story, you feel that a story is going to evolve very shortly because it has to do with the Shield. And Natasha's been called to do a mission. So it looks like things are going to move or progress forward in the issue. Now, the artwork is cool, but in this issue, I found that, again, like I said last time, the artwork is blending too much into the backgrounds. You find certain objects getting lost, especially like the crocodile here. There's very little inking in here, and I think it takes away from the book in a way. I think this can be a much better book if the artwork was done just a little bit more detailed. But the overall story here is you see Natasha She had to rescue or get somebody out of prison, and she didn't realize who she was actually um, getting out from prison until the end of the issue, and then it had to do with this person, which his name was. Let's see if I can get it. Lobo Blanco, and he was considered the butcher of Argentina. So at the end of the issue, she winds up killing him herself, which I thought was pretty nice and fed her to the Crocs. Again, it's a good one-shot story, but I want to see something more evolved. And of course, at the end of the issue, you see that cat again. So we're repeating things over and over and over again. Now it looks like from this point out, I think this series is going to be coming out once a month instead of twice a month. I guess they want to do that for the introductory of these series. I might give it another issue and see how the beginning of this story arc starts off. If it doesn't start off good or strong, I might have to drop it. Again, there's lots of titles coming out this year. I read lots of books, so if I'm not liking a book to my satisfaction, it will be dropped. So I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5 as well. So moving on now, we go on to number 11, and that was the Punisher issue number 1. Now, just like Black Widow, I'm not a I love Natasha as a character. I like how she's a badass. And this is kind of like that opposite version. This is the Punisher. I was never a huge Frank Castle fan, never a huge Punisher fan. The character's been through a lot, but I never felt that there was much you can really write about the Punisher. And every time he seems to have his own solo series, same thing, it tanks. So I wanted to see what this issue was about. And it's kind of similar to Black Widow. This issue has, again, the artwork that's trending for titles like, I guess you want to say like Captain Marvel or Black Widow or Hawkeye. They're all trying to do the similar thing, like Green Arrow. And I wish we would kind of get away from that a little bit because we're kind of overdoing this type of artwork. I think it's just too dark, and it's not really what comics always should represent, is darkness and evil, and even though this is a mercenary or whatnot. But in this issue too, you get to see Frank go after this big drug lord. He kind of takes him out at the end of the issue. And there was nothing really here that really interested me. I liked his, I guess you want to say, his technique into going after the bad guys, because one of the main characters or one of the evil guys in the issue winds up telling Frank, "You can't get in there. There's no way you can go into this building and take out all these men. They'll kill you. They'll be waiting for you." And the cool thing in the issue is he winds up getting this big rocket launcher where all the bad guys would be, and he winds up blowing them all up. So I mean, I thought that was cool, and that was kind of humorous, very Punisher-like. And at the end of the issue, you wind up seeing that the Howling Commandos are going to be involved in the whole thing. So, I'm on the fence about this one too. I don't know if I'm going to be going forward with it. I'm giving this one a 3 out of 5. Again, for a number 1 issue, for me to keep reading it, it really has to grab me and interest me. And there's got to be something here that stands out. And I just thought that everything in this entire issue was just level all the way through. And that's why this gets a 3 out of 5 too. Had certain good Punisher elements in it, but nothing there, again, really sat there and said, wow, this was great. This was a number 1 issue. I have to go out and buy it. So there's that. So now we move on to, I think we're number 10, right? Yep. Moving on to the top 10. Number 10 is, I forgot. Miss Marvel. Issue number 1. Now, this title was better than The Punisher. This had an introduction to our new character, our new Miss Marvel. So a lot of us heard, okay, Miss Marvel's coming back. Kind of like, ooh, that's cool. I like Miss Marvel. It's not Carol Danvers, but you know, uh, Miss Marvel title is coming back. Now, first off, this book. I'm trying to think of who wrote this book. Oh man, I'm sorry if I can find it. Yeah, Willow Wilson was the writer, and the artwork is done by Adrian Alfona. Okay, so what the book doesn't have going for it is the artwork for me. I thought the artwork was way out there, real skinny, like people necks are over exaggerated to the point of it's like, okay, I can't really believe it. The main character here is, I think her name is Kamala. She's Pakistan. Um, and I just didn't like the artwork. It was a real turnoff for me. It really made me want to hate the book because I did not like the artwork. Um, Again, not bold colors. The colors are taken away for a book that seems like you would feel is a more positive and energetic character. It would have brighter colors in it, and I didn't like that. By the time you get to the end of the issue, you get to see Carmella as Miss Marvel for the first time, and she looks like this. So I'm kind of like, all right, I don't like that artwork. However, the story, on the other hand, did a lot more for me. The story is what attracted me to the book, and it's a struggle between a young Pakistan teenager who's trying to fit in, and she lives in Jersey, and she's trying to fit in with these group of friends, and she's rebelling against her parents, and she dreams about being a superhero and whatnot. And I found it quite interesting. I liked that aspect of the book. And by the time you get into the end of the book or towards the middle, she tries again. She tries to go to this party to fit in with her friends. She disobeys her parents and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, you see the mist that's taking over the city. So it's obviously has to do with like Inhumans or Inhumanity, and she winds up getting the ability, just like a mutant or whatever it is, like the Inhumans are going through. I haven't read through that series, so but she goes through that mist, and she winds up coming out of the cocoon. She winds up breaking out of it, and she, I guess, winds up becoming Miss Marvel, and that's what happens. But again, what attracted me to the book was the character, Carmella. I thought she was a great character. I thought who she represent in this book was nice. Reminded me of a little bit of Spider-Man in a way, the outsider type of character, and I enjoyed it. So I'm giving this one a 3.5. If it wasn't for that freaking artwork, I would have liked it a lot better. So I'm going to pick up issue 2 for this, and I'm giving it a 3.5. So next we're moving on, and we're going on to number 9. And number 9 was Earth 2, issue number 20. Here it says, the forces of Apocalypse meet the rising tide of Aquawoman. And that's true, but to a very little extent in this issue. In the beginning of the issue, you get to see, our Earth 2 heroes here going against the parademons, flying. They're flying all over the place. Hawkgirl's trying to carry everybody, and Aquaman steps up to the plate, and she winds up rising the water above the earth, and she takes out all the parademons and drowns them all. So I thought that was pretty awesome. Artwork is consistent in this book every week. Barry Kinson does a very nice job with the artwork. But overall, story in this issue was very lack of progression. It was good, don't get me wrong. It was interesting and entertaining. However, we learn a little bit more about Val, who is Kryptonian, by the way, and he's been kept in a room and in a capsule his entire life. He's never been outside, so he has a fear of large spaces, which I thought was kind of hysterical. You got Lois here, who's trying to talk to Val, and to trying to convince him that this is what you have to do. You have to go outside and whatnot. Very little that had to do with Darkseid or Superman Darkseid, and he's telling all his parademons to go destroy all the places of worship around the earth, because the only thing that they can worship is him, which I thought was pretty interesting. Also, in the issue, you get to see, again, Lois convince Val to go out into the sunlight because they know at this time that this Kryptonian is the only one that can. Hold on one second. That this Kryptonian is the only one that can actually save the Earth, you would think, against the Darkseid Superman. So when he goes out into the sunlight. So really cool stuff here. Really enjoyed it. However, it was just really lack of progression. So I'm going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So with that being said, we're going to move on and we're going to go into number 8 and number 8. Is it number 8? Let me check one more time. Yep, number 8. And number 8 is Batman Detective Comics issue number 28. I read these tie-ins except for the latest Batwing issue, and I find myself enjoying this more without reading those tie-ins, because those tie-ins do no justice for this series right now. In this issue, I thought it was fun. And a lot of these comics that I read today, the higher ones up, I had lots of fun in. Reminded me of, you know, older days of comics where things weren't as serious, just lots of battle, lots of action, coupled with great artwork. And that's why these higher tiered comics got a little bit higher this time, because sometimes we try to write such an in-depth story that we lose the readers. Okay, so with going forward on this, you get to see Batman, who's in Arkham Asylum, and he's trying to get out of the prison, which I thought was pretty interesting. And they're going to kill him. The artwork here is done by Aaron Lorpesi, and I thought the artwork was done really well. Really enjoyed it. Like how Killer Croc is wearing the costume. Love how that characters are drawn. I love how Batman is drawn here with Catbird. Interesting stuff. It recaps everything, kind of what's happened in the issue, how Catbird wind up putting Batman in the facility because they feel that he's going bonkers. Well, right away, Batman winds up escaping. He has his bat gloves. Why Scarecrow wouldn't take everything away from him, I don't know. But he winds up having these gloves, and he winds up escaping, and he winds up teaming up with Poison Ivy in the issue, which was really awesome. They shared a real passionate kiss, but he used it to his advantage because her toxins or whatnot are not affected by Scarecrow's ability. So I love the team up between Ivy and Batman in this issue. So I thought it was really fun. And by the time we got to the end of this issue, we get to see Scarecrow, who releases feared villains. So he has like Batgirl, and he's got the Talon, and he's got Catwoman, and he's got Batwoman, and he calls it the Fear Family that's going to go against him. Fun. I liked it. I really enjoyed it. And, you know, not the best comic I've ever read in my life, but still, I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And you find out why all these people are committing suicide in this issue, too. So fun stuff. 3.5 out of 5 stars for me. So moving forward now, we're going to go on to issue or number 7. And number 7 is Green Lantern issue 28 and Red Lantern issue number 28. These I'm considering one comic, even though they're kind of two separate issues. First off, you can't beat it. You're getting 2 issues for $2.99. You don't see that anymore, especially in current comic books. Covers on these issues are really cool. I love the Green Lantern issue cover. Really awesome to see Supergirl in here, just doused in blood coming out. And then I love the other side of it, where you have Guy coming out of the blood, and you got Hal drowning in the blood. Okay, so why is Supergirl a Red Lantern? Well, just to let you guys know, we don't know yet. Because you have to buy Supergirl issue 28 to find out how she became a Red Lantern in the first place. So in this issue, it starts off really, really slow. I mean, it begins with Supergirl as her being a Red Lantern and going after a couple of Green Lanterns out of pure rage because she just got the ring and she doesn't know what to do with herself. So it's out of pure rage. Now, Billy Tan has decent artwork, but I felt as a Red Lantern, she needs to be more detailed. Just more, a little bit more muscular, more detailed, more lava flowing out of her, make her angry, make her pissed off. And I felt that it lacked that in his drawing of her. However, the story starts off with her, and then it winds up going back to St. Walker, and they're tying up loose ends that had to do with the last story arc. And you're reading, and you're reading, and you're reading, and you're reading, and it's like, okay, let's go on. St. Walker's being a wimp. He doesn't want to come to grips with himself. So for the whole half of the first half of the issue, it deals with pretty much very little with Supergirl. And you're like, come on. So by the time you get to the next part of the issue, you get to see the Red Lanterns come in contact with Hal. And you got some humorous parts and things like that. And then it comes to a part where it does have to go with Supergirl after they close up some loose ends in this issue. It has to deal with Atrocitus and Bleeze and Rancor having to team up together or Bleeze and Rancor trying to team up against Atrocitus. And Rancor and Bleeze share a great moment with each other. You get to see a nice little moment between Hal Jordan and Guy Gardner. How Hal Jordan winds up giving him Sector 2814 officially, but Simon Baez has to stay there just as an ambassador of the sector, which I thought was pretty neat. And then you get to see how they deal with Supergirl in the actual issue, and we find out that in the second part that we forgot that there was 9 other red rings that were released out there, and they're searching for hosts. And I was like, oh, that's right, I forgot. But at the end of this issue, the cool thing is that you have Supergirl as a Red Lantern, and they got to figure out what's going on. However, the one thing that I had an issue about was how Jordan never knew that Supergirl existed, being that he was on the Justice League and he was buds with Superman. He never knew that Supergirl existed. I just found that hard to believe. But these 2 issues are fun. I really, the Red Lantern part was the better of the story. And it really had great moments again between Hal and Guy, and that's why I enjoyed it. It really turned itself around, and it stays true. Red Lanterns is a much better story than Green Lantern, and it's proven right here in these 2 books. Charles Soule does a great job with this series. Robert Venditti, So I'm going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So after talking for that forever, we're going to go on to number 6. And number 6 is The Superior Foes of Spider-Man, issue number 8. Superior Foes, very strong book each and every week. Nick Spencer is our writer. We had Boomerang, who stole the famous portrait of Doctor Doom, who is unmasked. And I thought that was pretty neat. But this issue opens up very oddly. And you're like, what's going on in here? But it does open up, and it shows Fred as a swimming in a pool going for treasure, and he's with his girlfriend. His girlfriend is strangling him, and it's like, what's going on? But it opens him up as he's being interrogated about where the Silvermane head is at by Chameleon. And you're like, oh, okay, so he had a concussion. And he's not giving him any information, and he winds up sticking things up his nose so he gets shocked or tasered. And then you got Shocker in here who has no idea what to do with the Silvermane head because it does actually exist. And Silvermane is like, I'm hungry. What do you feed a head? How does it eat? I don't get it. It's just odd humor out here. But the dialogue between the two characters were hysterical. And I love Shocker. I love his expressions on the mask and his eyeballs. Like you can see it all in itself. Really interesting stuff. Um, but again, in the overall issue, Chameleon finds out the whole, the painting, and he winds up, their business winds up being complete. And at the end of the issue, you see that Boomerang hooks up with this girl that he's dating and confesses to her that he's a super villain. And he tells her all the stories and everything that's going on. And she kind of supports him in it. And they kind of wind up being an item. They wind up hooking up. And then you get to see somebody in the crosshairs at the end of the issue. And by the time you get to the last page, you see this. And I'm like, what? Wow, okay, well, how's that possible? Because if we read Daredevil, we all know where Bullseye is right now, right? So who is this? Is this any continuity involved whatsoever? I'm not sure. But is Bullseye actually alive, or is somebody else posing as him? So that will be interesting to see here. But I really enjoyed this book, and I'm giving this one a 4 out of 5. So with that being said, we're going to move on to number 5. And number 5 is Green Arrow, issue number 28. Green Arrow, again, has to do with the Outsiders War. This is book 3. In the last issue, you got to see the reveal of who's behind the whole island, and that was Ollie's father. And his father is alive and well. And in this issue, you get to see lots of dialogue, lots of history on why the island was here, why Ollie wound up being on here, and how this was all set up to be a test to get ready for this war. And you're just like, holy crap, well, how is Ollie supposed to handle all this stuff? The artwork is really intense in this issue. Lots of bright colors here that represent fighting and things like that. But again, how is Ollie supposed to take this? He doesn't take it too well. He's not really good friends with his father. His father, again, tells him about this outsider war. They have to go against this Shield clan. You wind up seeing Diggle in this issue, going back to his old job, what he used to do in the past, which I thought was pretty cool. He's with Naomi. And we can see that Shadow's involved in the whole thing, and he has this master plan to take over this gang. So after Ollie, his dad, and Shadow take on the Shield clan and wind up victorious, we get to see that the outsiders are all gathering together for this meeting to prepare for this war, and we see that Shadow takes over the clan and is the new leader, and that is to be continued in the next issue. Enjoyed it a lot. I love this story with Green Arrow. Now, there was a lot to read in here, so if you're not up to reading lots of information in a particular time of day, don't force yourself to read it. Read it while you're awake so you can pay attention to everything that you have. Where does Ollie's father sit in all this? I have no idea, because when they beat the Shield clan at the end of this issue, he slaps his father across the head with the shield, and he's knocked out. So is he going to come to terms or grips with his father? Is he going to team up with him in the future? I don't know, but I think they're going to have to stop these outsiders and Shadow and their clan and everything else, and they're going to have to team up with Magnus. So it's going to be a fun read. I can't wait to finish up and see how this turns out. So I'm giving this one 4 out of 5. So moving on, we're going on to number 4, and number 4 is Forever Evil tie-in, and that is Arkham War issue number 5. I love this series. This brings me back to childhood comic book reading, where it's a bunch of fighting with great artwork and not this huge ass plot, and you're just enjoying everything that it has to offer with it. You got Bane posing as Batman, fighting a whole bunch of Talons. You got the Talon working with Bane, and you got, you know, Batman's rogue gallery just doing whatever it takes to win as well. But there's still one person that's like the traitor behind the whole thing that will do anything he can to rule Arkham. And I thought this issue was great, and it says it all here. Again, you get Commissioner Gordon, and I think her name is Agatha, which was the warden of the prison, and she's trying to rescue people. They're trying to get them to the coast or whatnot. But right after that, this whole issue just explodes with action. You get the Talons fighting Bane's army and whatnot, and you think that the Talons are going to win, but you know Bane has got the true Talon, which is Cobb, and in the issue you get to see Cobb come to his side and try to defeat all these Talons. He takes this big-ass blade that's on top of the building, and he lets it go, so it's going in between these buildings, and the Talons just get sliced and diced, and you're like, oh, man, that's freaking crazy. But this whole plan was conjured up by Scarecrow, and we can see that in this issue here, that he's waiting for his for the Man-Bats to return with, you know, Bane and everybody else, but it's not working. But he had a plan B. If the Talons didn't work, he got this particular Venom, and he wound up scratching Bane's foot to get a little bit of Bane's Venom. And you think in this actual issue, which I thought was outstanding, that, you know, they're all celebrating that we're going to start this new Gotham and this new era, and he's having this toast, and everyone thinks that it has to do with the Bane Venom, because they think they all tainted it in the wine, and he's like, Bane Venom. They're all like, Bane Venom, what are you talking about, Crane? What are you talking about? So they dump the wine and everything. Scarecrow winds up drinking wine, and what happens is you start seeing everyone change into like Bane-like creatures, and you get to see Poison Ivy. She gets to change, and even Scarecrow at the end changes, and they wind up becoming these hulked out, bulked up supervillains that are going to try to destroy Bane. I thought this book was so much fun. I just loved it. It's taking everything that you know from Gotham and just twisting it around. It's got Bane as Batman. It's got the Rogue Gallery as Bane. It's just, and Batman's nowhere to be found. It's just so much fun, and I really, really enjoyed this issue. Fun stuff for me, and it's true what the cover is. It's like horror unleashed, and now you understand why. So I'm giving this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Fun stuff for me. So next we have number 3 on this week's countdown, and that is another Forever Evil book, but this is Forever Evil issue 5 out of 7. So we're almost done with this now. 2 more issues to the complete of this series. Really fun to see your villains here act as basically the Justice League. You got Black Adam, you got Manta, you got Bizarro, Sinestro, Lex Luthor, and then you got Catwoman, which is the on the fence character, and then you got Batman. And the cool thing about this issue is Batman, how stubborn he is. It's just like, I'm in charge, Luthor. Yeah, I don't know about that, because all these other people are bad guys, and they outmatch you, Batman, and you're just a human. So it was really a focal point in that issue when it was discussed. You have all the crime syndicates people going against everybody in this issue. The one person that changes his mind is Deathstroke, because what motivates someone better than money? So Lex Luthor persuades Deathstroke to join the team, so he's part of the team. You get to see great action between what's it called? Oh, come on, I forgot the character's name. You get to see lots of action between Sinestro and Power Ring, and then you get to see Constrictor and go against Batman in here. So lots of stuff goes on. But the main focal point of this issue that I thought it had to do with Sinestro, who's back, and Power Ring. And Power Ring's like, I'm done being afraid. And he's like, and he winds up sitting there shooting stuff out. And Black Manta joins in the fight, and he fries Shadow Thief in the whole process. And again, this main battle had to do with Sinestro and Power Ring, and let's just say that Sinestro and Power Ring have no match against each other. Sinestro's yellow ring overcomes Power Ring, and he winds up chopping off the arm that's been uh, possessing him to do these bad things. And in the issue, Power Ring is all happy. He's like, "The ring, it's finally gone." He's like, "Oh, thank you," because the ring always like teases its uh, person who owns it. He always sits there and goes, "Come on, you wimp! You can do it. You can take it over." That's how the ring talks to its owner. And when the arm is severed off of Power Ring, he tells Sinestro, "Oh, thank you, I'm free." And Sinestro's like, "Yeah, no problem. You're welcome." And he fries him. I thought it was awesome. Artwork done by David Finch is cool. Um, I really liked the characters on how they act. I liked Lex Luthor's character. I loved how Batman was stubborn. I loved Catwoman, how she's talking in Batman's ear, being like, "Come on, you got to hold your senses together here." So fun issue. Black Adam really still can't talk all that well because he's got this broken jaw. I thought was neat. And you're trying to get Deathstorm trying to create kryptonite because there's no more kryptonite on the planet. And then we find out at the end that the enemy that drove away the crime syndicate to begin with is coming to Earth, and it followed them there. So where this goes from now, I'm not sure, but I love this last page here. Nice page, nice background or scenery there. It's a really interesting page. But great book. I really enjoyed it too. I'm giving this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. So this next book, it can't get number one because it was last week's book, and it wouldn't be fair to the number one holder for the current week's books. It just lost out. But I'm going to put this in the nominees for Comic of the Year because this might have gotten Comic of the Year or Comic of the Week for me. So when the voting comes time, it will be in here. And this goes to Invincible issue number 108. This was a phenomenal book. I love this book. Robert Kirkman's starting to dial up the notch now in an Invincible series. Mark is after Anstrom Levy, and he teams up with Robot, and they're going to go to the different dimension to just stop him because they want him dead. Adam Eve is concerned because whenever there's this time travel going to different dimensions and whatnot, there is problems. Just like how Monster Girl and Robot wound up getting stuck in a dimension, they wound up getting stuck in their time. It was like something like 22 years. It was something ridiculous like that. And they only aged Earth time like 7 years or something weird like that. Robert Kirkman does a phenomenal job on the writing in this book. Ryan Otley is always consistent with artwork. And if you guys are looking for a good jumping on point for this series, issue 111. Guys, you won't be disappointed with this series. It's like a hardcore superhero book. Look at this artwork. It was just great. But our heroes, wind up going back into this other Earth to stop Anstrom Levy. And they come across to where the Vulturemites are in control of the Earth. And they come across Conquest. If you guys are familiar with Conquest, he was in Invincible in the past, and Mark wound up killing him. One of the most formidable foes in Invincible history that Mark had to face. But he wound up defeating him. But he's alive. So interesting here. So Mark winds up going into the facility, and he sees the other version of himself here. Now, obviously, he's a little bit more evil. You got the women attached to him. He's in control. He's the Invincible in this universe. And you see that he has Anstrom Levy, and he's basically torturing him. So Invincible is just not up to it. And we find out that in this issue, that Robot betrays Invincible. He finds out that Invincible was weak. He doesn't want anything to do with him, and he winds up going against Invincible's will. So he blows up Scientist's head, really gory. He winds up blowing up the other Invincible in the universe, and he blows up his freaking mouth and his jaw, and his eyeballs keep popping out, and you're like, oh my god. And what happens is Robot winds up leaving him behind, being trapped in this dimension, and Eve is going to be on the other Earth getting ready to have his baby, and how is he going to come back? And he's just left behind. And Invincible, he just, the torturing device that was on him that affected his hearing, he's like, holy fuck. And then he's just stuck in this dimension with Angstrom Levy. Yeah, he's dead, but the other Invincible is dead, and everyone around him is dead. What's he going to do? How's he going to escape? I don't know, but this was a damn good book. And any Invincible reader out there would agree with me. This is a phenomenal series. When it turns it on, it turns it on, and it turns it on hard. So I'm giving this one a 5 out of 5. This was a phenomenal book. So, what got number 1 for this week? This surprised the hell out of me because I really enjoyed this as a story altogether. And that was Superior Carnage Annual Issue number 1. Now, after reading all the other, Carnage series and mini-series, nothing was really great. Nothing really stood out. Nothing really made this fantastic Carnage story. This book, it did, and I enjoyed the hell of it. It was creepy. It was dark. It reminded me of a horror movie. I love the artwork in here. Reminded me of the Wake, how the characters were drawn. This is the artwork that fits this style of book. This is the artwork where it's dark and gritty, and that's what Carnage is. So the artwork really fits here. So I enjoyed it. And I almost passed on this. I was like, it's an annual. How do you make an annual off of a mini-series for an entire year? And, I looked at the preview pages, and what really got me here was this. And it's nothing special, but this got me right here. See that? That. It just reminded me of Spider-Man and this. These two panels is what's got me. Reminded me of Spider-Man. Reminded me of current Spider-Man. Reminded me of past Spider-Man with the symbiote. But this issue was awesome. We wind up seeing that this doctor winds up getting Cletus Cassidy out of prison, and winds up getting him in with like general population and whatnot. And he's doing, he's counseling him. This reminds me almost like a Harley Quinn thing. The guy gets so infatuated with Cletus, he wants to become the symbiote, which I thought was interesting. He pays prisoners to wind up stabbing Cletus Cassidy so he can die, so this doctor can take over the symbiote. We get to see part of the symbiote die because it's without its host for so long. But then the other side of the issue is you see this doctor, and her name is Dr. Carla, and she has this little piece of the symbiote, and they're doing studies on it. Little tiny piece. And she winds up doing a study on it, and it winds up possessing her. And you get to see that in the issue. She's doing the study. She's talking to her husband. Her husband's an asshole. He's like, I want dinner on the table. So he's kind of like a verbal abusive husband. And in the issue also, she's doing this study, and she sees that the symbiote is like moving in the glass here. And you get to see that. And it pokes her in the eye. And you see that here. And it's like, what? What's going on? And it pokes her in the eye, and she's getting all bloodied, and she's like, you can see that something's wrong with her. She's pushing her husband off to the side. She winds up going home, and the next thing you see is she's possessed by the Carnage symbiote. And it's freaking out. It winds up kicking her husband's ass and killing it and slapping it. And Cletus Cassidy's going through all these, he's dying too because he's sick without the symbiote. He's going through seizures and all kinds of stuff and all kinds of nonsense. And the symbiote can only have a temporary host if it's not its real host. So you see it go from host to host. So it leaves the scientist and it winds up going to the other, to the gas station attendant. It goes from a gas station attendant to a person that works in the jail, and it goes from a person that works into the jail. And you see it travel throughout the issue. It was so amazing to see this symbiote actually travel through host to host. Then finally, the doctor, when it comes to the doctor, he's like, but I'm a better being. This man is sick and whatnot. It winds up going to Cletus Cassidy. It heals him, and the symbiote winds up being healed, and everything is a-okay. Winds up killing the doctor, and it winds up causing all this mayhem and chaos in the prison, and it's just awesome. And that's how it ends. And he just closes it out, and he goes, old times come again. And then it just says, next, worlds kill-eyed. So, and it has to do with the whole Deadpool thing. So this is how Carnage book winds up being successful. One single solid story that's longer than an issue but shorter than a miniseries, and really grasps the reader's attention with great artwork and just a spooky, creepy, eerie story. And as a Spider-Man fan, I truly appreciated the character here. So that's why this book got #1. So there you have it, guys. 50 minutes later. So you've seen the worst, you've seen the best. And as always, guys, this has been the countdown. Stay tuned for next week's episode. And guys, as always, thank you for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. And until the next comic book review, this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off. Take care, everyone. See you soon. Bye.